The champagne tower sparkled under crystal chandeliers worth more than most people earned in a lifetime. 300 guests in designer gowns and tailored suits filled the grand ballroom of Lagos's most exclusive hotel, their laughter and whispered conversations creating a symphony of wealth and privilege. Damola Adebayo stood at the altar beside his bride, his smile wide, his chest puffed with pride. He had everything: the perfect wedding, the perfect woman, the perfect revenge. Because somewhere in this crowd, his ex-girlfriend would be watching. The woman he had destroyed 3 years ago. The woman he had invited specifically to witness his triumph. He scanned the entrance, waiting for her to shuffle in alone, defeated, still broken. Instead, the massive oak doors swung open. The music stopped. Every head turned. A convoy of black Rolls-Royces had pulled up outside, visible through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Armed men in black suits stepped out first, creating a path. Then the rear door of the center vehicle opened, and a man emerged, tall, devastatingly handsome, radiating power that made the air itself grow heavy. He adjusted his cufflinks slowly, deliberately, like a predator surveying territory he already owned. Then he turned and extended his hand into the vehicle. A woman's fingers, adorned with a single diamond ring worth more than the entire wedding budget, slid into his palm. She stepped out, Zenara Nwosu, but not the Zenara anyone remembered. This woman wore confidence like armor and elegance like a crown. Damola's smile vanished. His bride, Vanessa, clutched his arm so hard her knuckles went white. Because the man beside Zenara, the man holding her hand like she was the most precious thing in Asia, was Kwon Tae-suk. And he was looking at her like she belonged to him. Please like, share and subscribe. And comment where you're watching from so I can see how far across the world this story has traveled. 3 weeks earlier, Zenara had been sitting in her modest apartment in London, staring at an envelope that smelled like expensive perfume and bad intentions. The invitation was elegant, cream-colored cardstock with gold embossing, the kind of invitation that cost more than her monthly grocery budget. She recognized the handwriting on the envelope immediately, Damola's personal touch, making sure she knew this wasn't a mass-produced invitation sent by a wedding planner. This was personal. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened it. You are cordially invited to celebrate the union of Damola Adebayo and Vanessa Cole. The venue, the date, the dress code, all meticulously detailed. But it was the handwritten note tucked inside that made her chest tighten. Zenara, I hope you can make it. It would mean so much to see how far we've both come since university. Vanessa insisted I invite you. She's heard so much about you and really wants to meet the woman who almost had me. Don't worry about bringing a +1. I know how difficult dating can be for some people. Looking forward to seeing you. D. Zenara read the note 3 times. Each time the words cut deeper. She could picture him writing it. That smug smile. Those calculating eyes. The same expression he wore the night he ended their relationship in front of their entire friend group, calling her beneath him and a stepping stone to nowhere. 3 years ago, those words had shattered her. She had loved Damola with everything she had. She had supported him through his struggles, worked double shifts to help him pay his bills, sacrificed her own dreams to build his. And when he finally landed his first major business deal, when he finally became the success she had always believed he could be, he left. Not quietly, not privately. He had gathered their friends at a restaurant and announced that he was upgrading from her, that she was holding him back, that a man of his caliber needed a woman who matched his ambition, his status, his potential. She remembered the laughter, the pitying looks, the whispers that followed her for months. Did you hear? Damola dumped her in public. Poor thing. She really thought she had a chance with him. Some women just don't know their place. Zenara had fled Lagos after that. She moved to London, worked 3 jobs, and slowly, painfully, rebuilt herself from the ashes of her humiliation. She earned her business degree. She started a small consulting firm. She climbed, inch by inch, out of the pit he had thrown her into. But the scars remained. The self-doubt remained. The fear that maybe he had been right about her. And now, This invitation sat in her hands like a live grenade. She should throw it away. She should ignore it. She should prove she had moved on by simply not responding. But she couldn't, because deep down, a part of her needed to face him. Needed to prove, to herself more than anyone, that his words no longer controlled her. She just didn't know how she would survive walking into that wedding alone. 2 days later, Zanara was in Seoul. Not by choice. Her consulting firm had recently landed its biggest client, a luxury goods company expanding into African markets. The project required an in-person meeting with the parent corporation's leadership team, and that parent corporation was headquartered in South Korea. She had prepared for weeks, memorized statistics, rehearsed presentations, bought her first truly expensive suit, a deep burgundy ensemble that made her feel almost powerful. What she hadn't prepared for was the man waiting in the conference room. Kwon Tae-suk sat at the head of a table that could seat 30. He was alone. No assistants, no colleagues, just him, his charcoal gray eyes fixed on the door as she entered. Zanara's breath caught. She had researched the company's executives, of course. She had seen photographs, but photographs hadn't captured this. He was tall, far taller than she expected, with a lean, powerful build visible even beneath his perfectly tailored black suit. His hair was jet black, styled back with deliberate precision. His features were sharp, aristocratic, cold, the kind of face that belonged on currency or carved into stone. But it was his presence that stopped her. The room felt smaller with him in it. The air felt heavier. Even the light seemed to bend toward him, as if gravity itself recognized his authority. He didn't smile as she entered. He simply watched. Miss Nwosu. His voice was deep, measured, devoid of warmth. "You're late." Zanara checked her watch. She was actually 2 minutes early. "I was told the meeting was at 3, she said carefully. It was. She waited for clarification. None came. He gestured to the seat across from him. Not beside him, not at the other end of the table, but directly across, where she would have no choice but to face him throughout the entire meeting. She sat. "You came alone," he observed. "My team is handling the data analysis remotely. I preferred to deliver the strategic overview personally." Preferred. He repeated the word like he was tasting it. Most consultants send their most senior staff to meetings like this. They hide behind experience and credentials. You came yourself. Is that a problem? It's interesting. He leaned back slightly, and Zanara caught a glimpse of something beneath his collar. Dark ink, partially visible, disappearing down toward his chest. Tattoo. On a corporate chairman. She filed that detail away. "Your proposal," he continued. "I've read it. And it's competent." The word landed like an insult. "Competent," she repeated. "Your market analysis is thorough. Your expansion strategy is logical. Your financial projections are conservative but realistic." He paused. "But you're holding back." Zanara frowned. "I'm not sure what you mean." "Yes, you are." His gaze was uncomfortably direct, like he was reading pages she hadn't shown anyone. "You've written a proposal designed not to fail," he said. "Safe, predictable, competent. But I didn't build an empire on competence, Miss Nwosu. I built it on vision, on risk, on understanding what people want before they know they want it." He tilted his head slightly. "Your proposal lacks hunger." The criticism stung more than it should have. Because he was right. She had played it safe. She had written a proposal designed to impress, not to inspire. The same way she had lived her life for the past 3 years. Carefully, cautiously, always protecting herself from another fall. "What would you suggest?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. "I'm not going to do your job for you." "Then why point out the flaw?" "Because I'm curious whether you'll fix it." He stood, buttoning his jacket with fluid precision. The meeting apparently was over. "You have 1 week, he said. "Submit a revised proposal. Something that matches your actual potential, not your fear of failure." He walked toward the door, then paused. "And Miss Nwosu," she looked up, "that suit doesn't fit you." Before she could respond, he was gone. Zanara sat alone in the massive conference room, her cheeks burning, her mind racing. She should have been furious. She was furious. But beneath the anger, something else stirred. Something that felt dangerously like challenge. She spent the next 3 days rewriting her proposal. Not carefully, not cautiously. She wrote with the hunger he had demanded. She tore apart her conservative projections and rebuilt them with bold assumptions. She identified market opportunities she had previously dismissed as too risky. She crafted a strategy that could fail spectacularly or succeed beyond anyone's expectations. When she submitted it, she half expected rejection. Instead, she received a single-line response. Better. Meet me tomorrow. Same time. Different location. The address was for a private club in Gangnam. Zanara arrived in a new suit, one that fit. She found Kwon Tae-suk in a private room on the top floor, seated in a leather chair that looked like a throne. The city sprawled beneath them through floor-to-ceiling windows, Seoul's lights glittering like scattered diamonds. He wasn't alone this time. A man stood beside him, younger, sharper-featured, with watchful eyes that tracked Zanara's every movement. His name, she would later learn, was Han Jae-min, Tae-suk's right hand, his shadow, his most trusted advisor. Sit, Tae-suk said. She sat. Your revised proposal is acceptable. Acceptable. The ghost of something, not quite a smile, flickered across his face. You learn quickly. You teach harshly. I teach honestly. Most people prefer comfortable lies. His gray eyes held hers. You didn't. He gestured, and Jaemin placed a folder on the table between them. I'm approving the contract, Tae-suk continued. Your firm will handle our African expansion. Full authority. Full budget. Full responsibility. Zanara's heart hammered. This was the opportunity of a lifetime. The kind of contract that could transform her small firm into a legitimate industry player. Thank you, she managed. Don't thank me. Deliver. He stood, buttoning his jacket, a gesture she was beginning to recognize as his signal that a conversation was ending. There will be additional meetings, he said. Some in Seoul, some in other locations. You'll make yourself available. Within reason. Within my requirements. She should have pushed back. Should have established boundaries. But something about his tone made negotiation feel pointless. Fine, she said. He nodded, seemingly satisfied. Then, you received something recently. An invitation. It's been bothering you. The observation was so unexpected that Zanara's careful composure cracked. How do you? I research the people I work with. His expression remained unreadable. You've been distracted, unfocused. Your proposal improved because you channeled your frustration, but the source remains unresolved. That's none of your business. Everything that affects your performance is my business. It won't affect my performance. It already has. Silence stretched between them. Jaemin stood motionless in the corner, observing. The invitation, Tae-suk said slowly, is from an ex-boyfriend. He's getting married. He invited you to humiliate you. Zanara's jaw tightened. You had me investigated. I had you researched. There's a difference. Is there? Investigation implies suspicion. Research implies interest. The distinction should have alarmed her. Instead, she found herself asking, and are you? Interested. His gray eyes flickered, something shifting behind the ice. I'm interested in your success, he said carefully, and you cannot succeed while carrying the weight of unfinished business. What would you suggest? Skipping the wedding? No. He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Something dark and expensive and faintly dangerous. I suggest you attend, and I suggest you ensure that by the time you leave, everyone in that room understands exactly how wrong he was about you. How would I do that? By bringing someone they cannot ignore. The implication hung in the air. You're suggesting you come with me, Zanara said slowly, to my ex-boyfriend's wedding. In Lagos. I'm suggesting we explore a mutually beneficial arrangement. What could you possibly gain from attending a Nigerian wedding? Something flickered in his expression again. Something almost human. I have my reasons. Before she could press further, he was already walking toward the door. Think about it, he said without turning. You have until tomorrow. And then he was gone. Zanara spent the night sleepless, weighing an offer that made no logical sense. Why would one of the most powerful businessmen in Asia offer to accompany her to a wedding in Nigeria? What did he actually want? What were his reasons? The smart thing would be to decline. To attend the wedding alone, hold her head high, and prove she didn't need anyone to validate her worth. But the smart thing had gotten her a life of careful survival and constant self-doubt. Maybe, just once, she wanted something more. She called him the next morning. I accept. A pause. Then, I'll send details. The line went dead. What followed was a whirlwind. Stylists appeared at her hotel room. A team of 3 women who measured every inch of her body and produced a collection of gowns that made her gasp. Shoes arrived in boxes stamped with logos she recognized from magazines she couldn't afford. Jewelry appeared in velvet cases, accompanied by armed guards who waited patiently while she selected pieces. Through it all, Tae-suk remained distant. They spoke only through his assistant, a polite young woman who answered none of Zanara's questions about the man financing this transformation. Mr. Kwan prefers to handle business arrangements efficiently, the assistant explained when Zanara asked about the process. He has instructed that you should have everything you need. Everything I need for what, exactly? For the wedding, Miss Nwosu. And what's expected of me in return? The assistant smiled pleasantly. Your success. It wasn't an answer, but it was all Zanara received. The dress she eventually selected was a deep emerald green, designed to complement her rich brown skin and long black curls. It hugged her curves elegantly without being revealing. Sophisticated, powerful, regal. The jewelry was minimal but exquisite. Diamond earrings that caught light like captured stars. A single pendant that rested against her collarbone with understated elegance. When she looked in the mirror on the morning of the wedding, she barely recognized herself. Not because she looked different, because she looked like the woman she had always believed she could be. The flight to Lagos was aboard a private jet. Tae-suk was already on board when she arrived, seated in a leather chair with documents spread before him. He glanced up as she entered, and something shifted in his expression. Something quick, almost imperceptible, before the familiar coldness returned. Miss Nwosu, Mr. Kwan. She took a seat across from him, hyper-aware of the space between them. The cabin was luxurious, champagne chilling in crystal buckets, silk curtains framing oval windows, thick carpet silencing every footstep. You look adequate, he said. Adequate. The dress is acceptable. The jewelry is appropriate. Your confidence, however, requires work. Excuse me? You're sitting like you're borrowing those clothes, like you expect someone to reclaim them at any moment. He set his documents aside. That posture will be noticed. I'm sitting normally. You're sitting like a woman waiting for permission to exist. The observation cut deeper than she expected. I don't need your critique, she said tightly. You don't. But you need to understand what we're walking into. He leaned forward slightly. The man who invited you wants to embarrass you. He expects you to arrive alone, dressed modestly, still broken by his rejection. He has built an entire narrative around his superiority, and he invited you to confirm it. I know that. Do you? Because if you walk into that room carrying even a fraction of the self-doubt I see right now, he wins. Regardless of the dress, regardless of my presence. He wins because you let him. Zanara's jaw tightened. You don't know anything about me. I know you built a successful business from nothing. I know you survived betrayal that would have destroyed weaker people. I know you flew across the world to prove yourself to a stranger because you refused to accept mediocrity. His gray eyes held hers. I know you're stronger than you believe. The question is whether you'll act like it. She didn't respond. She couldn't. Because no one had ever seen her that clearly. There's something I should tell you, Tae-suk said after a moment. What? About who I am. What I am. Before we arrive. The plane's engine hummed quietly in the silence that followed. You've researched me, he continued. You know I run a luxury goods conglomerate. What you may not know is that my business interests extend further. Further. Some would call it the underworld. I prefer to call it alternative commerce. Zanara's breath caught. You're telling me you're in the mafia. I'm telling you that I control one of the most powerful criminal organizations in Asia, and that the man you're about to walk into that wedding with is not simply a businessman. He said it calmly, like he was discussing stock prices. I'm telling you because you deserve to know what you're associating yourself with, and because I trust you to handle the information appropriately. Why are you really doing this? She demanded. Coming to Lagos, helping me. What do you actually want? For a long moment he didn't respond. Then, quietly, I have enemies. Powerful ones. Recently, some have begun threatening my interests in Africa. My presence at a high-profile event in Lagos serves multiple purposes. Establishing relationships, demonstrating reach, reminding certain people that my influence has no geographic limits. So I'm just cover. You're a partner. A temporary one, perhaps, but a genuine one nonetheless. His gaze softened almost imperceptibly. I don't make offers lightly, Miss Nwosu, and I don't help people I don't respect. You barely know me. I know enough. The plane banked slightly, adjusting course. One more thing, Tae-suk said. What? At the wedding you will be targeted. Not just by your ex-boyfriend, by others who will try to determine your relationship to me, your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities. They will test you. And if I fail? You won't. He said it with such certainty that she almost believed him. Almost. They landed in Lagos 3 hours before the wedding. A convoy of black vehicles waited on the tarmac. Rolls-Royces with tinted windows, flanked by SUVs carrying security personnel. Jaemin had arrived separately, and he stood beside the lead vehicle, his expression characteristically unreadable. The venue is prepared, he reported as Tae-suk descended the jet stairs. Our people are already in position. All exits are covered. Guest list. 300 confirmed attendees. Several persons of interest among them. Jaemin glanced at Zanara. Miss Nwosu's former associate is currently at the venue, preparing for the ceremony. And the bride, Vanessa Cole, daughter of Michael Cole, minor logistics operator with aspirations toward international expansion. The marriage appears to be strategic rather than romantic. Of course it is. Zanara listened to the exchange with growing unease. This wasn't a simple wedding appearance. This was an operation. Planned, coordinated, controlled. You're treating this like a military campaign, she observed. Tae-suk turned to her. Every social event is a battlefield. The weapons are different, words instead of bullets, perception instead of force. But the principles remain the same. Know the terrain. Understand your opponents. Control the narrative. And what's our narrative? That you belong at my side. That your ex-boyfriend made the worst mistake of his life. And that anyone who underestimates you does so at their peril. He offered her his hand. She took it. The venue was spectacular. The hotel, one of Lagos's most exclusive, had transformed its grand ballroom into a fantasy of white roses and golden light. Crystal chandeliers cascaded from cathedral ceilings. A string quartet played classical arrangements while waiters in white gloves circulated with champagne flutes. 300 of Nigeria's elite filled the space. Politicians, businessmen, socialites, celebrities. They laughed and gossiped and preened for invisible cameras, all while maintaining the careful hierarchy of wealth and influence that governed their world. At the center of it all stood Damola Adebayo. He looked good, Zanara admitted. 3 years had been kind to him. His suit was clearly expensive, his smile confident, his posture perfect. He held his bride's hand with proprietary ease while guests queued to offer congratulations. Vanessa Cole was beautiful, light-skinned, conventionally pretty, with the studied poise of someone raised to be decorative. Her wedding gown was enormous, a cascade of white silk and lace that probably cost more than Zanara's apartment. They looked perfect together. The perfect couple. The perfect wedding. The perfect life. And for one terrible moment, all of Zanara's old insecurities came flooding back. What am I doing here? What am I trying to prove? He won. He moved on. He's happy. And I'm... Breathe. Taesuk's voice was low, meant only for her. What? You're spiraling. I can see it in your shoulders. Breathe. They were standing just outside the ballroom's main entrance, hidden from view by a massive floral arrangement. The convoy had deposited them at the hotel's private entrance, allowing them to enter unseen. I don't think I can do this, Zanara whispered. You can. You don't understand. That man, he broke me. He made me feel worthless, invisible, like everything I did, would never be enough. And seeing him now with her, looking so happy. He's not happy. She looked up. What? Watch him. Actually watch him, not through the lens of your memories. Look at the way he positions himself toward the crowd. The way his smile reaches his mouth but never his eyes. The way he constantly checks who's looking at him. Zanara forced herself to observe. And slowly, reluctantly, she saw it. Damola wasn't enjoying his wedding. He was performing it. Every gesture, every expression, every touch of his bride's hand. All calculated for maximum visibility. He wasn't celebrating love. He was advertising success. He invited you here because he needs validation, Taesuk continued. Because despite everything he's achieved, some part of him knows it's hollow. He needs to see you broken so he can feel whole. That desperation, that need, is his weakness. And how do I exploit it? By being everything he convinced himself you could never become. He straightened his cuffs, those cuffs that she now knew concealed the edge of extensive tattoos, and adjusted his jacket. Are you ready? Zanara took a deep breath. Then another. Then she lifted her chin, squared her shoulders, and became someone new. Yes. They stepped around the floral arrangement and walked toward the ballroom entrance. The first person to see them was a waiter. He dropped his champagne tray. The crash of shattering glass cut through the string quartet's melody, drawing every eye in the vicinity toward the entrance. Toward them. Zanara felt the weight of 100 gazes landing on her simultaneously. She felt the shock ripple through the crowd like a physical wave. She heard whispers erupt, confused, disbelieving, fascinated. Who is that? Is that Zanara? Zanara Nwosu? Can't be. But who is the man with her? She kept walking. Taesuk matched her pace exactly, his hand resting lightly on the small of her back. A gesture that was somehow both protective and possessive. He moved through the crowd like a shark through still water, and people parted before him instinctively, unconsciously, as though their bodies recognized danger before their minds caught up. Jaemin had entered through a side door and now shadowed them at a discreet distance, his eyes constantly scanning. They walked deeper into the ballroom, toward the altar, toward Damola. Zanara watched his face as recognition dawned. First confusion, then disbelief, then something that looked almost like fear. Zanara? His voice carried further than he intended, drawing even more attention. You came. You invited me. Yes, I did. But... His eyes darted to Taesuk. Who is this? Kwon Taesuk. Taesuk didn't offer his hand. I believe congratulations are in order. The name landed like a bomb. Even in Lagos, even among people who had never set foot in Asia, Kwon Taesuk was known. His conglomerate controlled luxury brands that Nigerian socialites desperately coveted. His face had graced magazine covers worldwide. His wealth was the kind that made billionaires seem middle class. And he was standing at this wedding, holding Zanara Nwosu's hand. You know Zanara? Damola managed. I'm partnered with her. Taesuk's tone implied far more than business. Partnered. Her firm is handling significant projects for my company. I offered to accompany her today. She was concerned the event might be awkward, given your history. Every word was calculated. Every phrase designed to elevate Zanara while subtly diminishing Damola. It was masterful. It was devastating. Vanessa, who had been standing frozen beside her groom, suddenly stepped forward. "I don't understand," she said, her voice higher than intended. "Damola, who is this woman? Why does she matter?" "She doesn't," Damola said quickly. "She's nobody. Just an old friend." "Friend." Taesuk's voice was silk over steel. "Is that how you describe the woman you humiliated in public? The woman you mocked for daring to believe in you? The woman you invited to your wedding specifically to embarrass?" Silence. Complete, devastating silence. Everyone within earshot had stopped moving, stopped talking, stopped breathing. "I'm sorry," Taesuk continued. "Perhaps I misunderstand your culture. In Korea, we consider such behavior dishonorable." Damola's face had gone ashen. "I don't know what she's told you, but she told me nothing. I simply conducted research, as I do with anyone who affects people I value." He paused. "You should be grateful she chose not to share details. If she had, I might be less civil." The threat was unmistakable. Vanessa looked between her groom and the woman he'd allegedly humiliated, her carefully constructed wedding fantasy crumbling. "Damola," she hissed. "What is he talking about?" "Nothing, babe. Just old history. Misunderstandings." "Misunderstandings." Taesuk smiled. A cold, dangerous expression that didn't reach his eyes. "Of course. Well, we won't keep you from your celebrations." Zenara simply wanted to offer her congratulations in person. He turned to Zenara, and his expression shifted, something warmer entering those gray eyes. "Shall we find our seats?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. They walked away together, leaving chaos in their wake. Behind them, Zenara heard Vanessa's voice rising. "What did you do? What did you do to her? And why is she here with him?" She didn't hear Damola's response. She didn't need to. The ceremony proceeded, but it was hollow. Vanessa's smile was strained. Damola's confidence had cracked. The guests were distracted, whispering among themselves about the dramatic entrance that had overshadowed the actual wedding. Zenara sat in the third row, close enough to be visible, far enough to maintain dignity, with Taesuk beside her. His presence was impossible to ignore. People kept stealing glances, trying to understand how the founder of a small London consulting firm had acquired such a powerful companion. "They're staring," she murmured. "Let them. Does this not bother you? Being the center of attention." "I'm always the center of attention. The question is whether I choose to notice." The ceremony ended. The bride and groom kissed, briefly, mechanically, and everyone moved to the reception hall for dinner and dancing. Taesuk led Zenara through the crowd with practiced ease, navigating social hierarchies like a chess master positioning pieces. He introduced her to business contacts, praised her expertise, and subtly referenced their partnership in terms that implied exclusivity and importance. By the time they reached their table, positioned strategically near the center of the room, Zenara had collected a dozen business cards and several invitations for future meetings. "You're building my professional network," she realized. "I'm introducing you to people who should have known your name already." He pulled out her chair. "Your work deserves visibility. I'm simply accelerating the process." "Why? What do you gain?" "I told you. I don't help people I don't respect." "That's not an answer." "No." He met her gaze. "It isn't." Before she could press further, the reception's entertainment began. A traditional performance followed by the first dance. Damola and Vanessa moved to the floor, but their movements were stiff, their smiles forced. Zenara watched with complicated emotions. 3 years ago, she had imagined herself in Vanessa's position. She had dreamed of a future with Damola. Modest at first, growing over time, built on love and partnership and mutual respect. That dream had died publicly and painfully. But watching him now, watching the performance of happiness without its substance, she felt something unexpected. Relief. "You're thinking too loudly," Taesuk observed. "I'm realizing I dodged a bullet." "You dodged a nuclear weapon." Despite herself, she laughed. His eyes flickered with something. Surprise, perhaps, at the sound. You should laugh more often, he said quietly. So should you. I have fewer reasons. The words hung between them, unexpectedly vulnerable. Before either could respond, a voice interrupted. Zanara, I thought I recognized you. A woman approached, stylish, beautiful, with the practiced smile of a professional socialite. Zanara recognized her after a moment. Adiz Okonkwo, a former university classmate who had been present the night Damola humiliated her. The night Adiz had laughed along with everyone else. Adiz, Zanara said carefully. It's been a while. 3 years. We all wondered what happened to you. Disappeared completely. Adiz's eyes traveled to Taesuk with undisguised hunger. And now you show up with, well, quite a surprise. Kwon Taesuk. He didn't offer his hand. A pleasure. The pleasure is entirely mine. Adiz leaned closer. I'm dying to know how you two met. Business? Pleasure? Both. Mutual respect, Zanara said before Taesuk could respond. Something I've learned to prioritize since leaving Lagos. The subtle dig landed. Adiz's smile tightened. Of course. Well, you certainly seem to be doing well. That dress must have cost a fortune. It did. And the jewelry. Exquisite. A gift from your partner. An investment, Taesuk interjected smoothly. In a relationship I value. The word relationship sent visible shockwaves through Adiz's composure. Relationship, she repeated. How? Serious. Very. Zanara felt his hand settle on hers. Warm, deliberate, unmistakably possessive. If you'll excuse us, Taesuk continued. I believe they're about to begin the general dancing, and I never miss an opportunity to dance with someone I value. He stood, offering Zanara his hand. She took it. They walked to the dance floor together, leaving Adiz staring after them. Dancing with Kwon Taesuk was nothing like Zanara expected. He moved with fluid grace, guiding her through the steps with effortless control. His hand on her waist was warm and steady. His eyes never left hers. You're a good dancer, she said. I'm a good everything. Modesty clearly isn't your strength. Modesty is for people who haven't earned confidence. She laughed again. That surprised, genuine sound that seemed to fascinate him. There it is again, he murmured. There what is? That laugh. Like you've forgotten how beautiful it sounds. Zanara's breath caught. Mr. Kwon. Taesuk. What? My name. Use it. Taesuk. The syllables felt foreign on her tongue. Intimate. What are you doing? Dancing. You know what I mean. He pulled her slightly closer, close enough that she could see the faint pattern of his neck tattoo above his collar. A dragon, she realized, black and gray, extending from his neck toward his collarbone. The kind of tattoo that carried meaning in certain circles. I'm enjoying myself, he said quietly. For the first time in longer than I can remember. Enjoying yourself. At a stranger's wedding. In Lagos. With you. The words settled between them like embers. You don't know me, Zanara whispered. I know enough. That's what you keep saying. Because it keeps being true. The music shifted, something slower, more intimate. Around them, other couples drew closer, but Zanara barely noticed. The room had narrowed to this. His eyes on hers, his hand on her waist, his presence surrounding her like gravity. After tonight, she said, what happens? We complete our business arrangement. You return to London. I return to Seoul. And that's it. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. That depends. On what? On whether either of us can walk away. Before she could respond, a commotion erupted near the ballroom entrance. Voices raised. Movement. The sharp crack of something. A confrontation. Taesuk's expression shifted instantly, warmth vanishing, replaced by cold calculation. His hand moved to the small of her back, positioning himself between her and the disturbance. Stay close, he ordered. What's happening? I don't know yet. Jaemin appeared at his side, materialized from the crowd like a ghost. We have a problem, he said quietly. Seo Kongwoo just arrived. Zanara saw Tae-suk's expression darken, genuine anger flashing through the ice. Here? Now? He brought a security team, significant presence. He's claiming he was invited. He wasn't. No. But someone let him in anyway. The commotion near the entrance resolved into a figure walking toward them. A man roughly Tae-suk's age, with similar height but a heavier build. His features were handsome in a brutal way, his smile cold and predatory. He wore a suit almost as expensive as Tae-suk's, and he was looking directly at Zanara. "Kwon Tae-suk," the man called out, his voice carrying across the ballroom. "I heard you were attending a wedding in Lagos. I couldn't resist saying hello." "Kang-woo." Tae-suk's voice was deadly calm. "You weren't invited. Since when have I needed an invitation?" The man, Seo Kang-woo, stopped a few feet away, his eyes still fixed on Zanara. "And who is this lovely creature? I didn't know you'd acquired a companion. She's none of your concern. Everything you value is my concern." Kang-woo stepped closer, and Zanara felt the air itself grow hostile. "You remember our last conversation, don't you? The one where you promised to stay out of Africa? And yet here you are, at an African wedding, with an African woman. My business arrangements are my own. Your business arrangements are bleeding into my territory." Kang-woo smiled, and it was like watching a snake bare its fangs. "Did you think I wouldn't notice? Did you think I wouldn't respond? I think you're making a mistake by being here. And I think you've made a mistake by caring about something for the first time in years." His eyes slid to Zanara again, evaluating, calculating, dangerous. "Such a pretty thing. Does she know what you are? What you've done? The blood on your hands?" "Enough." Tae-suk's voice dropped to something barely above a whisper. "You've made your point. Now leave." "Or what?" The question hung in the air. Around them, the wedding guests had fallen silent. Damola and Vanessa stood frozen near the head table, clearly confused. The security personnel on both sides had tensed, hands moving toward concealed weapons. One wrong word could turn this ballroom into a battlefield. "Or," Tae-suk said slowly, "I'll remind you why the last 3 men who threatened me are no longer breathing." The threat was delivered calmly, casually, like a comment about the weather. And somehow that made it infinitely more terrifying. Kang-woo stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed. A harsh, unpleasant sound. "Always so dramatic, Tae-suk. Relax. I'm not here for a fight. Not tonight. I'm here to deliver a message. Deliver it and leave. The message is simple. Africa is mine. Whatever deals you're making, whatever partnerships you're building, whatever relationships you're developing." His eyes flickered to Zanara again. "They won't last. I'll see to it personally." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise." Kang-woo smiled one last time, cold and victorious, then turned and walked toward the exit. His security team fell in behind him, a wall of black suits and barely concealed violence. The ballroom remained frozen until the last of them disappeared. Then chaos erupted. Guests began talking at once. Panicked, confused, demanding explanations. Damola rushed toward Tae-suk with his face twisted in anger. "What the hell was that?" he demanded. "Who was that man? Why is he threatening people at my wedding?" "Your wedding was convenient collateral damage," Tae-suk replied without looking at him. "The matter doesn't concern you." "Doesn't concern me? He just threatened my guests. In front of everyone. I should call the police. Call whoever you like. They won't help you." Tae-suk turned to Zanara, his expression softening slightly. "We need to leave. But now." His hand closed around hers. Firm, protective, undeniable. She let herself be led. The convoy waited outside, engines running. Jaemin was already on his phone, issuing rapid orders in Korean. "Safe house in Victoria Island," he reported as they climbed into the lead vehicle. "Our people are securing the perimeter. No signs of pursuit." "He won't pursue tonight," Tae-suk said. "He made his point. Anything more would require resources he hasn't yet positioned." "Then what was the purpose?" "To demonstrate he knows where I am, who I'm with, What I care about. His eyes met Zanara's in the vehicle's dim interior. He's going to use you against me. I don't understand. I'm nobody to him. Why would he? Because you're not nobody to me. The admission landed like a physical impact. Zanara stared at him, heart pounding. Tae-suk. I didn't anticipate this. He looked away, something almost like frustration flickering across his features. I calculated every variable, every risk, every outcome. I didn't calculate you. What does that mean? It means you've become a vulnerability. He met her eyes again. And I don't have vulnerabilities. Then what am I? I don't know yet. The vehicle sped through Lagos's night streets, carrying them toward uncertain safety. Behind them, at a wedding that no one would remember for its ceremony, Damola Adebayo stood in the wreckage of his perfect day, watching the taillights disappear. He had invited Zanara to humiliate her. Instead, she had arrived with a man who made him look like nothing. A man who had protected her without hesitation. A man who had looked at her like she was the most important person in the world. Damola felt something he hadn't felt in years. Regret. And the terrible, growing suspicion that he had lost something far more valuable than he ever realized. The safe house was a penthouse overlooking the Lagos Lagoon. Glass walls, modern furniture, security systems that would rival military installations. Zanara stood at the window, watching the city lights reflected on dark water. She still wore the emerald dress, though she had removed the jewelry. Her mind was racing, processing everything that had happened. Tae-suk stood behind her, silent. You should have told me, she said finally. About him. About the danger. I didn't anticipate him arriving tonight. But you anticipated danger. That's why you brought security. That's why Jaemin was positioning people. You knew there were risks. There are always risks. To you, not to me. She turned to face him. I didn't sign up for mafia wars and death threats. I signed up for a business arrangement. I know. Then why didn't you prepare me? Because I hoped it wouldn't come to this. He moved closer, and the city lights illuminated the sharp planes of his face. Because I wanted one night where you could have the revenge you deserved without complications. Because... He stopped. Because what? Because I've been selfish. The admission seemed to cost him something. I told myself this arrangement benefited both of us. That my presence would help you and my business interests simultaneously. But the truth is more complicated. What truth? The truth is that I saw your photograph in a research file and couldn't look away. The truth is that I read about your ex-boyfriend's cruelty and felt genuine rage on behalf of a stranger. The truth is that I wanted to meet you. Not because of business, but because you fascinated me. Zanara's breath caught. The proposal criticisms, she said slowly. The harsh feedback. The demands for revision. Was any of that real? All of it was real. Your work was genuinely competent but not exceptional. But I would have given those notes to any consultant. What I wouldn't have done, what I've never done, is personally invite them to my private club. Or offer to accompany them to another continent. Or, he stopped again, as if words were failing him. Or what? Zanara whispered. Or think about them constantly. Wonder what they're doing. Check their schedule to understand their patterns. Become invested in ways I cannot professionally justify. The confession hung between them. You've been watching me, Zanara said, since before we met. Observing. There's a difference. Is there? Investigation implies suspicion. Observation implies interest. Yes, you've said. She stepped closer. And what exactly is your interest? Tae-suk? What do you want from me? His eyes held hers. Gray ice with something burning beneath. I want to know you. The real you, not the version you show the world. I want to understand what drives you, what frightens you, what makes you laugh. I want to watch you succeed because you deserve it, not because I manufactured circumstances. I want. His jaw tightened. I want things I have no right to want. From a woman I've known for less than a month. While she's still processing humiliation from a man who didn't deserve her. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. They stood close enough that she could feel the heat of him. Close enough that she could see the conflict in his expression. Desire warring with restraint, emotion battling control. Kang-woo threatened me, she said quietly. Used me to get to you. What happens now? I protect you. And if I don't want protection? If I want to return to London and pretend none of this happened? Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, quickly suppressed. Then I facilitate your departure, ensure your safety, and never contact you again. Is that what you want? It's what I'll accept, if that's your choice. And if I choose differently? Then we face Kang-woo together. I eliminate the threat. And afterwards, we see where we stand. The words were clinical, practical. But his voice wasn't. His voice was raw with something she didn't fully understand. Why do you care? She asked. Really? I'm a consultant from London. I'm nobody in your world. You're not nobody. He reached out, almost involuntarily, and brushed a strand of hair from her face. You're remarkable. You survived devastation and rebuilt yourself. You refused to let one man's cruelty define your worth. You walked into a room full of people who expected you to fail and showed them a queen. I showed them a woman wearing borrowed clothes and borrowed confidence. No. His hand lingered near her face, not quite touching. The clothes were provided. The confidence was always yours. You just forgot it existed. Tears burned at the corners of her eyes. I don't understand you, she whispered. I don't understand myself. Not anymore. Not since I met you. The lagoon lights shimmered outside. The city hummed with distant life. And in the penthouse's protected silence, two damaged people stood at the edge of something neither could name. What happens tomorrow? Zanara asked. Tomorrow I begin dismantling Seo Kang-woo's operation. Tomorrow you decide whether you want to return to London or remain in my protection. Tomorrow. He stopped. What? Tomorrow I try to remember that you're a partner. Not a what? He didn't answer, but his eyes said everything. She didn't sleep that night. The guest suite was luxurious, silk sheets, climate control, a bathroom larger than her London flat. But comfort couldn't quiet her mind. She kept replaying the evening, the entrance that had silenced a room, the confrontation with Damola, the dancing, the threat, Tae-suk's confession. You fascinated me. I want things I have no right to want. You're remarkable. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not Damola, who had praised her only when it served his ego. Not the colleagues who respected her work but never saw her as a person. Not the friends who had abandoned her when she needed them most. Only this stranger. This dangerous, damaged, impossible stranger. A mafia boss. A billionaire. A man who looked at her like she was worth protecting. What was she supposed to do with that? Around 4 a.m., she gave up on sleep and wandered to the penthouse's main living area. She expected silence and solitude. Instead, she found Tae-suk. He stood at the window, exactly where she had left him hours earlier. He'd removed his jacket and tie. His shirt was open at the collar, revealing the full extent of the dragon tattoo that climbed his neck. Intricate black and gray scales that seemed almost alive in the dim light. He didn't turn as she approached. You should be sleeping, he said. So should you. I don't sleep much. Neither do I. Not anymore. She moved to stand beside him, both of them facing the sleeping city. Jaemin is coordinating security rotations, he said. By morning, we'll have enough coverage to ensure your safety regardless of Kang-woo's movements. You've done this before. Protected someone. Never like this. What makes this different? He finally looked at her, and she saw the exhaustion beneath his composure. Lines around his eyes, tension in his shoulders, the weight of responsibilities she couldn't imagine. You're not leverage, he said slowly. You're not a bargaining chip or a strategic asset. When Kang-woo looked at you, I didn't think about political implications or business consequences. I thought about hurting him, about making him pay for even considering you a target. That sounds personal. It is. I don't know how to make it not be. She should have stepped back, maintained distance, remembered that she barely knew this man, that his world was dangerous, that caring about him was foolish. Instead, she asked, "Have you ever been in love?" The question clearly surprised him. "Once," he said after a long pause. "A long time ago, before I became this." "What happened?" "She left. When she understood what I was, what I would become, she left. And I don't blame her. The life I lead, it destroys normal people, consumes them. Is that a warning? It's a truth. And if I don't want to be warned, if I want to make my own choices about what I can handle." His eyes searched hers, looking for something she couldn't identify. "Then I would tell you that being with me is dangerous, that people around me get hurt, that Kangwoo is only the most recent enemy. There will always be others, always threats, always the possibility that loving me becomes a death sentence." "Loving you," the words hung between them. "I didn't mean," he started. "Yes, you did." Silence. "Zanara, don't." She moved closer, close enough to feel his warmth, close enough to see his breath catch. "Don't tell me what I should feel," she continued. "Don't tell me what's safe or smart or sensible. I spent 3 years being safe. I spent 3 years letting Demola's words define my worth. I'm tired of safe. What do you want?" "I want to feel something. I want to be seen. I want." She stopped, suddenly uncertain. His hand came up, cupping her face with devastating gentleness. "I see you," he said quietly. "I've seen you since your photograph crossed my desk. I've seen you in your proposal revisions and your fierce determination. I've seen you in your vulnerability and your strength. I've seen you, Zanara, and I cannot look away." A tear slid down her cheek. He caught it with his thumb. "Whatever this is," he continued, "whatever we're becoming, I won't rush you. I won't pressure you. When Kangwoo is handled, when you're safe, you can return to your life. No obligations, no expectations. And if I don't want to return, then we figure out what comes next. Together." The words settled into her chest like warmth. "Together." "You're asking me to trust a man I've known for less than a month," she said. "I'm asking you to trust yourself, to trust what you feel. The fear is valid. The doubts are reasonable. But underneath all of that," he pressed his palm flat against her chest, over her heart. "Underneath all of that, know what? That this is real, that I'm real, that whatever terrifying, impossible thing is happening between us, it's worth the risk." She covered his hand with hers. "I've made so many mistakes," she whispered. "I've trusted the wrong people, believed the wrong words. If I trust you and I'm wrong, you're not wrong. You can't know that. I know myself. I know my intentions. I know that hurting you would hurt me more than any enemy ever could." His gray eyes held hers. "I know that I would burn this entire city to keep you safe. Is that not enough? It's terrifying. Yes. You're terrifying. Yes. And I should run. Probably." She took a breath, let it out slowly. "I'm not going to run." Something shifted in his expression. Hope, relief, something almost like joy. "Then stay," he said. "Stay until the threat is handled. Stay until you're certain about what you want. Stay. Until you decide whether you want to stay forever." The word forever should have frightened her. Instead, it felt like coming home. Dawn broke over Lagos, painting the lagoon gold and crimson. Zanara stood at the window watching the sunrise, still wearing yesterday's clothes, still processing everything that had changed. Taesuk had left hours ago, calls to make, plans to coordinate, an empire to run even from across the world. But before he left, he had done something unexpected. He had kissed her forehead. Just that. A gentle press of lips against her skin, barely there, impossibly tender. And then he had said, "I'll be back. Stay safe." Like she was someone worth returning to, like she mattered. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. She opened it and felt her blood run cold. A photograph. Her photograph from last night's wedding. Walking beside Taesuk. Elegant, confident, happy. Below the image, a single line of text. He can't protect you forever. The number was untraceable. The sender was obvious. Seo Kang-woo. Zanara stared at the message, fear crawling up her spine. This was what she had signed up for. This was the danger Tae-suk had warned her about. She could still leave. Still catch a flight to London. Still return to her safe, small, controlled life. But even as she thought it, she knew she wouldn't. Because for the first time in 3 years, she felt alive. She typed back a single response. Neither can you. Then she deleted the conversation and went to find Jae-min. If she was going to survive in Tae-suk's world, she needed to learn its rules. Starting now, Jae-min found her before she found him. He appeared in the living area like smoke, his footsteps silent, his expression unreadable. Zanara had the distinct impression he had been watching her for some time before making his presence known. "You received a message," he said. "It wasn't a question. How did you?" "We monitor all communications in and out of this location. Standard protocol." He gestured toward the sleek leather couch. "Please, sit." Zanara sat, her heart still racing from Kang-woo's threat. Jae-min remained standing, his hands clasped behind his back, his posture military precise. "The message came from a burner phone purchased in Victoria Island 3 hours ago," he continued. "The photograph was taken by one of Kang-woo's men positioned outside the wedding venue. We've already identified him. And he's been handled." The casual delivery of those words sent a chill down her spine. Handled. She didn't ask what that meant. She wasn't sure she wanted to know. "Mr. Kwon has been informed," Jae-min added. "He's displeased. I imagine he would be. You misunderstand. He's not displeased about the threat. He expected threats. He's displeased that Kang-woo contacted you directly. That was a line. A line. In our world, there are rules. Unwritten but absolute. You don't target civilians. You don't involve innocents. You don't—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "You don't touch what belongs to another man. I don't belong to anyone." Something flickered in Jae-min's expression. Surprise? Perhaps. Or respect? Perhaps not. But Kang-woo believes you do. And that belief makes you valuable. Valuable how? As leverage. As a pressure point. As a way to destabilize Mr. Kwon's judgment. He tilted his head slightly. "I've served him for 15 years. I've never seen him react to anyone the way he reacted to you last night. When Kang-woo looked at you, when he implied threat, Mr. Kwon nearly killed him. He seemed controlled to me. That's because you don't know what his anger looks like. His anger is silence. His anger is stillness. His anger is the moment before devastation." Jae-min's voice dropped. "Last night, he was angrier than I've ever seen him. And Kang-woo saw it too. That's why he's targeting you. Not because you matter strategically, but because you matter to Mr. Kwon." Zanara absorbed this, her mind racing. "What do I do?" "You stay close. You follow security protocols. You trust that we will protect you." He paused. "And you decide whether you're truly prepared for what comes next." "What comes next?" "War." The word landed like a stone in still water. "Mr. Kwon has tolerated Kang-woo's provocations for years," Jae-min continued. "Territory disputes, business interference, occasional violence. He tolerated it because open conflict is costly, not just in money, but in lives, stability, reputation. He preferred Cold War to hot war. And now Kang-woo has threatened something Mr. Kwon cannot tolerate losing. Now the calculation has changed." Jae-min met her eyes. "You've started something, Miss Nwosu, whether you intended to or not. I didn't ask for any of this." "No. But you responded to Kang-woo's message, didn't you? You didn't cower. You didn't beg. You challenged him." She remembered her response. "Neither can you." Was that wrong? It was unexpected. Kang-woo anticipated fear, submission. Instead, he received defiance. A ghost of something, not quite a smile, crossed Jae-min's face. "Mr. Kwon was right about you. You're not what you appear." What do I appear? Soft, vulnerable, easy to break. He shook his head. But you're not, are you? You've simply learned to hide your steel. Before Zanara could respond, the penthouse door opened. Taesuk entered, and the room's atmosphere shifted instantly. Charged, electric, focused entirely on him. He wore a different suit than last night, perfectly tailored, impossibly expensive. His hair was styled back with characteristic precision. His expression was carved from ice. But when his eyes found Zanara, something warmed. "You're awake," he said. "I couldn't sleep. Neither could I." He crossed to her, stopping close enough that she could smell his cologne, that dark, expensive scent that was becoming dangerously familiar. "You received a message. Jaemin told me you were informed." I'm also informed that you responded." "Was that wrong?" "It was brave." His gray eyes held hers. "Also reckless. Also exactly what I would have expected from you." "You're not angry?" "I'm furious. But not at you." His jaw tightened. "Kangwoo has made a critical error. He believes threatening you gives him leverage. Instead, he's given me permission. Permission to destroy him completely." The words were delivered calmly, casually, like a comment about the weather. And that calm was somehow more terrifying than rage. "What happens now?" Zanara asked. "Now we return to Seoul. My resources are there. My people. My infrastructure for dealing with threats like this. Seoul. Unless you'd prefer London. I can arrange protection there. You'd be safe enough, at least temporarily. And you? I'll be wherever the war requires me to be." "That's not an answer. It's the truth." She stood, facing him directly. "If I go to London," she said slowly, "I go alone. Back to my life. Back to safety. Back to being someone who doesn't matter in your world." "You'll always matter." "Will I?" "From across the world. While you're fighting battles I can't see, facing enemies I can't understand. How long before I become an afterthought? A woman you helped once, then forgot." "I could never forget you." "You say that now. But I've been forgotten before, Taesuk. I've been discarded by someone who swore I mattered. I won't survive it again." He stepped closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head to meet his eyes. "You're asking me to choose," he said quietly, "between protecting you from danger and keeping you close. I'm asking you to let me choose for myself. And if your choice puts you at risk, then it's my risk to take." Silence stretched between them. Jaemin had retreated to the far side of the room, pretending to examine his phone, giving them the illusion of privacy. "Seoul," Taesuk said finally. "You come to Seoul. You stay in my residence under my protection. You observe, learn, understand what you're choosing. And if at any point you want to leave, I'll tell you. You promise." "I promise." Something relaxed in his shoulders, tension releasing, control loosening just slightly. "Then we leave in 2 hours. Pack whatever you need. Jaemin will arrange the rest." He turned to leave, then paused. "Zanara." "Yes." "Thank you." "For what?" "For staying." He was gone before she could respond. The flight to Seoul was longer than the flight to Lagos, nearly 17 hours, with the private jet cutting through time zones like a knife through silk. Zanara slept for part of it, exhaustion finally overwhelming her racing thoughts. When she woke, the cabin was dim, and Taesuk sat across from her, reviewing documents in the soft glow of a reading lamp. He looked different in this light, softer, almost though the word felt wrong for a man like him. His tie was loosened. His sleeves were rolled to his elbows, revealing the edges of his sleeve tattoos. Traditional Korean imagery, tigers and dragons rendered in black ink, powerful and ancient. She watched him for a moment before he noticed. "You're awake," he said without looking up. "You're working." "I'm always working. Don't you ever rest?" "Rest is a luxury I can rarely afford." He set the documents aside, giving her his full attention. "Did you sleep well?" "Better than I expected." "Good. You'll need your strength." "For what?" "For everything that comes next." She sat up straighter, pulling the cashmere blanket tighter around her shoulders. "Tell me about him," she said. "Kangwoo. Who is he? Why does he hate you?" Tae-suk was silent for a long moment. "We grew up together," he said finally. "Same neighborhood, same schools, same path into this life. You were friends, brothers, or so I thought." His expression darkened. "We rose through the ranks together, built empires side by side. I trusted him with everything. My plans, my vulnerabilities, my future. What changed? Power. Power always changes everything." He leaned back, his gray eyes distant. "When the old leadership fell, there was a vacuum. Multiple factions fighting for control. Kangwoo and I were positioned to take over together. A partnership that would have unified the underworld. But he wanted more than half. He wanted everything. And when I refused to submit, when I insisted on equality, Tae-suk's jaw tightened. He tried to have me killed." Zanara's breath caught. "The attack came at night. My residence. My security had been compromised. He'd bribed key personnel. 12 men came for me. Killed 8. The other 4 fled." He said it matter-of-factly, like he was describing a business meeting. "After that, there was no reconciliation possible. We've been at war ever since." "How long ago?" 7 years. 7 years of war. 7 years of Cold War. Occasional skirmishes. Territory disputes. Economic sabotage. Neither of us strong enough to destroy the other without destroying ourselves." He met her eyes. "Until now. Because of me. Because he threatened you. Because he crossed a line I cannot ignore. Because..." He stopped. "Because what?" "Because losing you would break something in me that I cannot afford to have broken." The confession landed like a physical weight. "Tae-suk. I know. We've known each other less than a month. What I'm feeling is irrational. Inexplicable. Dangerous." He shook his head. "But I've spent my entire adult life being rational. Calculating every move. Controlling every emotion. And then you walked into my conference room, and nothing made sense anymore. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. I'm simply explaining why I'm about to start a war. Why I'm about to risk everything I've built. Why..." His voice dropped. "Why I would burn the world to keep you safe." She moved before she could stop herself, crossing the space between them, settling on the armrest of his chair, close enough to touch. "That's terrifying," she said softly. "I know. It's also the most romantic thing anyone has ever said to me." Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, hope, something vulnerable beneath the ice. "Damola used to tell me I was beautiful," she continued. "He used to say he needed me, that I was essential, that he couldn't imagine his life without me. And then he walked away without looking back. His words meant nothing. My words. Your words match your actions. You don't just tell me I matter, you show me. You restructure entire business trips around protecting me. You confront enemies in public. You offer to burn the world." She reached out, touching his face with trembling fingers. "That's not just words. That's everything." He turned his face into her palm, eyes closing briefly. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted. "Relationships, vulnerability, letting someone see the parts of me I've hidden for decades. Neither do I. My last relationship ended in public humiliation. This won't." "How can you be sure?" "Because I'm not Damola Adebayo." His eyes opened, gray and intense. "I'm not a man who builds himself up by tearing others down. I'm not a man who discards what he claims to value. I'm not," he took a breath, "I'm not capable of walking away from you, even if I wanted to, even if it was safer. I'm simply not capable." She leaned forward and pressed her lips to his forehead, echoing his gesture from the night before. "Then don't walk away," she whispered. His hand came up, tangling in her curls, pulling her closer. "Zanara, I know. War, danger, complications." She met his eyes. "I don't care. You should. I should do a lot of things. But I'm tired of should. I'm tired of safe. I'm tired of living half a life because I'm afraid of being hurt again. And if you are hurt, if caring about me brings you pain, then at least I'll have chosen it. At least it will be mine. Something shifted in his expression, walls crumbling, control releasing. He kissed her, not her forehead, not her cheek, her lips. The kiss was gentle at first, exploratory, questioning. But when she responded, when she pressed closer, it deepened into something fierce and desperate and undeniable. His hands cupped her face. Her fingers tangled in his shirt. The world outside the jet's windows disappeared, leaving only this. Two damaged people choosing each other despite everything. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against hers. When this is over, he said roughly. When Kangwoo is handled. When you're safe. We talk about the future. The future. Where you want to live. What you want to build. How we make this work despite the distances and the dangers and the thousand complications neither of us has considered. That sounds like planning. I'm good at planning. I've noticed. He kissed her again, briefly, fiercely. Seoul in 4 hours. He murmured against her lips. Get some sleep. You'll need it. Sleep isn't what I need right now. His laugh was low, surprised, genuine. Patience, he said. We have time. Do we? I'll make time. I'll make everything. He pulled back, meeting her eyes. I'll make the impossible possible. If that's what it takes. She believed him. God help her, she believed him. Seoul was overwhelming. The city sprawled in every direction. Ancient temples beside glass towers, traditional markets beneath digital billboards, millions of people moving through streets that never slept. Zanara pressed her face to the car window like a child, trying to absorb everything at once. Taesuk's residence wasn't in the city center. It was outside, in an area of hills and estates where old money built walls between themselves and the world. The car wound through security checkpoints, 3 of them, before finally approaching a property that made Zanara's breath catch. The house was traditional Korean architecture rendered in modern materials. Sweeping rooflines and elegant courtyards translated into glass and steel and stone. Gardens surrounded it, perfectly manicured, leading to forested hills that provided natural privacy. This is your home? She managed. One of them. How many do you have? Several. This is the most secure. Security personnel materialized as they exited the vehicle. Men and women in black, nodding respectfully to Taesuk and examining Zanara with professional curiosity. Jaemin issued rapid orders in Korean, and the staff dispersed to various tasks. Inside, the residence was both beautiful and intimidating. Traditional art hung beside contemporary pieces. Furniture was minimal, elegant, clearly expensive. The space felt curated rather than lived in, a showcase rather than a home. Your room is in the East Wing, Taesuk said, guiding her through hallways that seemed to go on forever. Private bathroom, private terrace, direct access to the gardens. If you need anything, there's staff available around the clock. This is a lot. Is it too much? It's overwhelming, but not in a bad way. She turned to face him. Just different from anything I've experienced. You'll adjust. People always do. Do they? Or do they just get lost in the luxury and forget who they were? His expression softened. Is that a concern? I don't know who I am in a place like this. I've always worked for everything I have. Earned every comfort through my own effort. You're not pretending. He stepped closer. You're here because of your character, not your circumstances. The house doesn't change who you are. It simply provides different surroundings for being yourself. Easy to say when you've always had this. I haven't always had this. His voice dropped. I grew up poor, desperately poor. Everything I have, I fought for, bled for, killed for. His gray eyes held a darkness she hadn't seen before. Don't assume my comfort with luxury means I've forgotten struggle. I simply learned to survive it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean. You meant to express discomfort. That's valid. But don't confuse discomfort with incompatibility. You belong here as much as I do. Do I? You will. Give it time. He kissed her forehead, that tender gesture that was becoming their signature. Rest, he said. Tonight we have dinner with some associates, people you should meet, but for now rest. He was gone before she could ask questions. The associates turned out to be terrifying. 6 men gathered in Tae-suk's formal dining room. All of them powerful, all of them dangerous, all of them watching Zenara with various degrees of curiosity and suspicion. Jaemin made introductions in a low voice as each guest arrived. Park Sung-ho controls transportation across 3 provinces. Loyal, but cautious. Kim Dae-young, financial operations, handles the legitimate business fronts. Brilliant, but cold. Lee Min-jun, enforcement. You don't want to know details. Choi Hyun-woo, intelligence, knows everything about everyone, including you. The last one, Choi Hyun-woo, met Zenara's eyes with unsettling directness. He was older than the others, with silver at his temples and the patient expression of a man who had seen everything and been surprised by nothing. Miss Nwosu, he said, bowing slightly, your reputation precedes you. I wasn't aware I had a reputation. Everyone has a reputation. The question is whether they know what it says. He smiled. Yours says you're intelligent, resilient, and unexpectedly stubborn. All qualities Mr. Kwan values. You've researched me. I've researched everyone. It's my job. Dinner was elaborate. Multiple courses, traditional Korean cuisine, served by silent staff who appeared and disappeared like ghosts. Conversation circled around business topics Zenara didn't fully understand. Territory negotiations, financial projections, security concerns. But underneath the business talk, she sensed something else. These men were evaluating her. Every question, every glance, every pause was designed to assess whether she was worthy of their leader's attention, whether she was an asset or a liability, whether she belonged in this world. She refused to be intimidated. Mr. Choi, she said during a lull in conversation, you mentioned my reputation. What does it say about why I'm here? The table fell silent. Choi raised an eyebrow. It says you're the woman who distracted Kwon Tae-suk enough to start a war with Seo Kang-woo. Distracted. Captivated might be more accurate. But distracted is what his enemies will say. And what do you say? I say that any woman who can affect our leader's judgment deserves careful observation. Either she's a threat to be eliminated, or an asset to be protected. He leaned back. I haven't decided which you are. Perhaps I'm neither. Perhaps I'm simply a person who fell into circumstances beyond her control. In our world, Miss Nwosu, circumstances are never beyond control. They're merely inconvenient variables awaiting proper management. Tae-suk, who had been silently observing the exchange, finally spoke. She's under my protection, he said, his voice leaving no room for debate. That makes her an asset. Anyone who treats her as a threat treats me as an enemy. The words landed with the weight of absolute authority. Choi nodded slowly. Understood. But Zenara didn't miss the calculation that remained in his eyes. She had passed some tests tonight, but others remained. After dinner, Tae-suk walked her back to the east wing. You handled that well, he said. I felt like a gazelle surrounded by lions. You're not a gazelle. You're something they haven't encountered before. Someone who doesn't cower, doesn't perform, doesn't try to impress through submission. Is that rare? Extremely. He paused at her door. Most people who enter my world want something. Power, money, protection, status. You want none of those things. What do I want? That's what confuses them, and what fascinates me. He touched her cheek. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we begin planning. Planning what? The end of Seo Kang-woo. The words should have frightened her. Instead, they felt like justice. The planning took 3 days. Zenara wasn't included in the strategic meetings. Those happened behind closed doors. With men speaking in rapid Korean and spreading documents across tables she wasn't allowed to approach. But she observed what she could, and Jaemin provided context when appropriate. Kang-woo's organization has 3 primary revenue streams. he explained during one of their conversations. Illegal gambling operations across Southeast Asia, arms trafficking through corrupted shipping channels, and money laundering through legitimate businesses in Europe. That's extensive. He's had decades to build, but he's also made enemies. Many of the people working for him do so out of fear, not loyalty. That's a weakness we can exploit. How? By offering alternatives. Protection for those who turn against him. Promises of safety in exchange for information. Jaemin's expression was clinical, detached. And by eliminating his most loyal lieutenants one by one until he's isolated. You make it sound simple. It's not. But Mr. Kwon has done this before. He knows how to dismantle an empire. It simply requires patience and precision. And what's my role? Jaemin hesitated. You're the catalyst, he said finally. Your presence forces Kang-woo to act impulsively. He's obsessed with hurting Mr. Kwon, and he believes you're the key to doing so. As long as you're visible, as long as you're clearly valuable to our side, he'll keep making mistakes. So I'm bait. Your strategy. There's a difference. She wanted to argue, but she couldn't. The logic was sound, even if it reduced her to a chess piece. Does Tae-suk see me that way? She asked. As strategy? Mr. Kwon sees you as everything. Jaemin's voice softened unexpectedly. I've served him for 15 years, Miss Nwosu. I've seen him negotiate billion-dollar deals without blinking. I've seen him face death threats with perfect composure. I've seen him order difficult actions without hesitation. And I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Whatever you are to his strategy, you're infinitely more to his heart. The words settled into her chest like warmth. Why are you telling me this? Because you should know. Because the men at that dinner table saw a potential weakness. I see a potential strength. He met her eyes. Mr. Kwon is brilliant, but he's been alone for too long. He's been cold for too long. Whatever you're doing to him, don't stop. I'm not doing anything. You're being yourself. That's apparently enough. On the fourth day, everything changed. Zanara was in the garden, one of the few places she was allowed to wander freely, when she heard the commotion. Raised voices, running footsteps, the distinct sound of security protocols activating. She started moving toward the house, but Jaemin intercepted her. Inside, he ordered. Now, what's happening? We received a delivery. His face told her it wasn't a pleasant one. She followed him through the residence, past guards who barely glanced at her, into a wing she hadn't visited before. They stopped at a door flanked by 2 armed men. Wait here, Jaemin said. He disappeared inside. Through the door, she heard voices. Tae-suk's, low and controlled. Others, urgent and distressed. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then the door opened, and Tae-suk emerged. His face was composed, but his eyes, his gray, usually cold eyes, burned with something she had never seen before. Rage. Pure, absolute rage. What happened? She demanded. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he took her hand and led her away from the door, away from the guards, to a private alcove where no one could hear. Kang-woo sent a message, he said finally. What kind of message? The kind that ends any possibility of negotiation. His jaw tightened. He delivered the body of one of my men, someone who worked in our Lagos operations, someone who helped coordinate your security during the wedding. Zanara's stomach dropped. He's dead. He was tortured first. For information about you. Tae-suk's hands trembled. The first time she had ever seen him lose physical control. Kang-woo wanted us to know that he could reach anyone, that no one close to you is safe. That. He stopped, breathing hard. Tae-suk, this is my fault. I brought you into this. I painted a target on your back. Stop. She gripped his hands, forcing him to look at her. This is not your fault. Kang-woo is responsible. Kang-woo made this choice. Not you. If you hadn't met me, if I hadn't met you, I'd still be in London half alive, convinced that Damola was right about me being worthless. I'd still be hiding from my own potential because one man's cruelty convinced me I didn't deserve more. She held his gaze. You didn't destroy my life, Tae-suk. You gave me one. And now that life is in danger. Then we end the danger. Together. His hands stopped trembling. You're not afraid, he said quietly. I'm terrified, but I'm also tired of running. Tired of letting other people's cruelty dictate my choices. She stepped closer. You said you would burn the world to keep me safe. Let me stand beside you while you do it. It's going to get worse before it gets better. I know. People are going to die. I know. You might. I know. She cut him off before he could finish the thought. I know all of it, and I'm still choosing this. Choosing you. Something broke in his expression. Something that had been holding him together through sheer will. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. I don't deserve you, he murmured into her hair. Probably not. He laughed. A broken, surprised sound. When this is over, he said, I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving I was worth the risk. I'll hold you to that. The war accelerated. Over the following weeks, Zanara watched Tae-suk transform into something she had only glimpsed before. A general, a strategist, a force of nature directing destruction with surgical precision. Kang-woo's operations began to crumble. His gambling networks were exposed to local authorities through anonymous tips. His shipping channels were intercepted by coast guards who had been provided with suspiciously accurate intelligence. His European money laundering fronts found themselves under investigation by agencies that had previously looked the other way. One by one, his lieutenants disappeared. Some fled, seeking protection from Tae-suk's organization. Others simply vanished. Zanara didn't ask what happened to them. She didn't want to know. Through it all, Kang-woo remained elusive. He had gone to ground somewhere, protected by his remaining loyal forces, waiting for an opportunity to strike back. That opportunity came 6 weeks after Zanara arrived in Seoul. It was supposed to be a simple outing. Zanara had been confined to the residence for weeks, and she was starting to lose her mind. When Tae-suk suggested a carefully supervised dinner at a restaurant he owned, one of his legitimate businesses, she jumped at the chance. Security will be present, he assured her. The venue is controlled. You'll be safe. She believed him. That was her mistake. The restaurant was beautiful. A rooftop space overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. They ate together, talked together, laughed together. For a few hours, Zanara almost forgot the war raging around them. Then the lights went out. Not just in the restaurant. In the entire building. In the buildings around them. The whole block plunged into darkness. Stay close, Tae-suk ordered, his voice immediately shifting to combat mode. But before she could move, before anyone could react, figures emerged from the darkness. Men in black, moving with military precision, weapons raised. Kwon Tae-suk, a familiar voice called out. You really should improve your cybersecurity. Kang-woo stepped into the emergency lighting, his smile cold and victorious. I've been waiting for this, he continued. Waiting for you to finally let your guard down. Waiting for you to care about something enough to make a mistake. Let her go. Tae-suk's voice was deadly calm. This is between us. Of course it is. But she's the reason I'll finally win. Kang-woo nodded, and 2 of his men grabbed Zanara, dragging her away from Tae-suk before he could react. So here's how this works. You surrender your organization. All of it. Every territory, every asset, every person who reports to you. And in exchange, I'll let her live. And if I refuse, then you watch her die. Slowly, painfully, right here. A gun pressed against Zanara's temple. She should have been afraid. She was afraid. But she was also furious. Tae-suk, she said, her voice steady despite the weapon at her head. Don't. Zanara. Don't give him anything. I'm not worth your empire. You're worth everything. Then trust me. The words hung in the air. Kang-woo laughed. Touching. Really. But I'm not interested in romantic declarations. I'm interested in power. You have exactly 10 seconds to decide. He began counting. 10. Taesuk's eyes never left Zanara's. 9. She saw the calculation in his expression, the weighing of options, the search for alternatives. 8. There had to be a plan. Taesuk always had a plan. 7. But he was also looking at her like a man facing an impossible choice. 6. I love you, he said suddenly. The counting stopped. What? Kangwoo sounded genuinely surprised. I love you, Zanara. Taesuk's voice was raw, stripped of all pretense. I should have said it before. I should have said it every day since I met you. But I was afraid. Afraid that admitting it would make me weak, would give my enemies ammunition, would— How romantic, Kangwoo interrupted sarcastically. But unless those words come with a surrender, they're meaningless. They're not meaningless. Taesuk took a step forward. They're a promise. A promise that no matter what happens next, she knows the truth. The truth being that you're a fool in love? The truth being that I would never leave her unprotected, even when I'm not beside her. Kangwoo frowned. What does that? A shot rang out. Then another. Then chaos. Zanara didn't see where the first bullet came from. Only that it hit the man holding her, dropping him instantly. She hit the ground, rolling away from the gunfire that erupted around her. Taesuk's security team had been positioned throughout the building. Hidden, waiting, triggered by a signal she hadn't detected. They emerged from darkness like vengeful ghosts, their weapons precise, their movements coordinated. Kangwoo's men fell one by one. Through the chaos, Zanara saw Taesuk moving toward Kangwoo with purpose. No weapon drawn. No fear in his expression. Just absolute, inevitable fury. You should have stayed hidden, Taesuk said as he reached his rival. You should have kept running. Instead, you touched what was mine. She's not yours, Kangwoo spat, backing away. She's nothing. Just a woman. Just. She's everything. And you threatened her. That's the last mistake you'll ever make. Kangwoo raised his gun. Taesuk moved faster. In a single motion, he disarmed Kangwoo, twisted his arm behind his back, and brought him to his knees. The gun skidded across the floor, out of reach. 7 years, Taesuk said quietly. 7 years of Cold War, of waiting, of watching you destroy everything you touched. I could have ended this any time, but I was patient. I was strategic. I was weak, Kangwoo snarled. Merciful. Taesuk's grip tightened. A mercy I no longer feel inclined to extend. What are you going to do? Kill me? In front of witnesses? In front of her? No. Taesuk released him, stepping back. That would be too kind. He nodded, and Jae-min appeared from the shadows, flanked by other men Zanara didn't recognize. Take him, Taesuk ordered. Contact the authorities. The real ones, not the ones he's bought. Ensure they receive every piece of evidence we've collected over the past 7 years. Every record, every transaction, every crime. Kangwoo's face went pale. You wouldn't. I already have. Your organization is being dismantled as we speak. Your accounts are frozen. Your allies are abandoning you. By morning, you'll have nothing left except a prison cell and the rest of your life to regret threatening the woman I love. He turned away, dismissing Kangwoo from his attention entirely. His eyes found Zanara's. Are you hurt? She shook her head, not trusting her voice. He crossed to her in 3 strides, gathering her into his arms, holding her against his chest like she might disappear. I'm sorry, he murmured. I'm sorry. I promised you would be safe. I promised. I am safe. She pulled back to look at his face. Because of you. Because you had a plan. Because— She took a breath. Because you love me. I do. Say it again. I love you, Zanara Nwosu. He cupped her face in his hands. I love you in ways I didn't know I was capable of. I love you beyond reason, beyond strategy, beyond any calculation I've ever made. I love you too. The words felt like freedom. His kiss felt like home. 3 months later, Zanara stood on a different rooftop, this one in Lagos, overlooking the city where her humiliation had begun. Tae-suk stood beside her, his hand warm in hers. "You're sure about this?" he asked. "I'm sure." She was returning. Not forever. Her life was in Seoul now, building something new with the man who had seen her worth when she couldn't see it herself. But she needed to come back. Needed to face the place where she had been broken. Needed to prove that she had survived. The party below was already in full swing. A celebration hosted by one of Lagos's most prominent business families, attended by the same elite who had witnessed her humiliation 3 years ago, including Damola Adebayo. She had received word that he would be there. His wedding, it turned out, had not ended well. Vanessa had left him within 6 months. Rumors of infidelity, financial difficulties, and the lingering stain of that disastrous wedding ceremony. He was here tonight, seeking new connections, new opportunities, new ways to rebuild his crumbling reputation. He didn't know Zanara would be attending. "Ready?" Tae-suk asked. "Ready." They descended together, not making an entrance this time, just joining the party like any other guests. But people noticed. Of course they noticed. Kwon Tae-suk was impossible to ignore, and the woman on his arm was impossible to forget. Zanara saw familiar faces. Adiz, who had mocked her at the wedding, now looked at her with something approaching fear. Former friends who had abandoned her whispered behind their hands. Business acquaintances who had dismissed her now approached with nervous smiles and 2 eager handshakes. She received them all with grace, not coldness. She wasn't there for revenge, just quiet dignity, the confidence of a woman who had nothing left to prove. And then she saw Damola. He looked older than he should, tired. The confidence that had once seemed so overwhelming now appeared hollow, desperate. He was standing at the bar, alone, nursing a drink that probably wasn't his first. Their eyes met across the room. For a moment, neither moved. Then Damola set down his glass and walked toward her. "Zanara." His voice was rough. I heard you were in Seoul now. Doing well. Very well. That's good. He swallowed. That's good. Silence stretched between them. "I received your wedding invitation," Zanara said finally. "The one with the personal note. About how you hoped I would attend, so I could see how far we'd both come." Damola's face flushed. I didn't mean. You meant exactly what you wrote. You wanted to humiliate me, to prove you were better, to confirm every cruel thing you said the night you left me. She kept her voice steady. "But here's what you didn't realize, Damola. Your cruelty didn't define me. It motivated me. Zanara. Every time I wanted to give up, I remembered your words. Every time I doubted myself, I heard your voice telling me I wasn't enough. And I used that. I built something from the ashes you created. Not to prove anything to you, but to prove something to myself." He looked at her, something broken in his expression. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, "for what I did, for how I treated you. I know." She cut him off gently. "I know you're sorry. I can see it. But that apology isn't what I need anymore. I've moved past needing anything from you. Then why are you here?" She smiled, not with cruelty, but with something like peace. "Closure. For myself. To stand in the place where I was broken and know that I survived." She glanced at Tae-suk, who waited a respectful distance away. "And to show you something." "Show me what?" "That the woman you called worthless is loved by one of the most powerful men in the world. Not because of what she can give him, but because of who she is." She met Damola's eyes one last time. "I hope you find that someday. Real love. The kind that sees you clearly and chooses you anyway. But you won't find it by tearing others down. You'll only find it by becoming someone worth choosing." She turned and walked away, leaving him standing alone. Tae-suk met her halfway, his hand finding hers immediately. "How do you feel?" "Free." He smiled, that rare, genuine expression that still surprised her every time. "Then let's go home." The proposal came 3 months later. Not in a restaurant, not at a party, not with witnesses or photographers or elaborate productions. It came in the garden of Tae-suk's Seoul residence, at sunset, with the sky painted in gold and crimson above them. He had been unusually quiet all day, distant, almost nervous. Zanara had attributed it to work stress. The aftermath of Kong-woo's downfall had been complicated, requiring constant attention and delicate negotiations. But when he led her to the garden, when he stopped beneath the cherry blossom tree that had become their favorite spot, she realized this was something else entirely. "Zanara," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "Tae-suk, I had a speech prepared. I wrote it weeks ago, rewrote it dozens of times. Every word was perfect, strategic, calculated. That sounds like you." It was. But now, standing here, looking at you, he shook his head. "Now I can't remember any of it." "Then don't. Just say what you feel." He took both her hands in his. "I feel terrified," he admitted. "I feel like the most powerful man in Asia has no power at all when it comes to you. I feel like every day I wake up beside you is a gift I don't deserve. I feel," his voice broke slightly, "I feel like my whole life was leading to this moment, and I almost missed it. I almost stayed cold and controlled and alone forever because I was afraid of exactly this, of loving someone so much that losing them would destroy me." "You're not going to lose me." "I know, because I'm going to spend every remaining day of my life making sure you have no reason to leave." He released her hands, reaching into his jacket. "This was my mother's." He withdrew a small box, simple, elegant, clearly old. Inside was a ring, not the flashy diamond she might have expected, but something delicate and beautiful. A band of white gold with a single ruby surrounded by tiny sapphires. "She gave it to me before she died," Tae-suk continued. "Told me to save it for someone worthy. I've carried it for 20 years, never believing I would find anyone who fit that description." "Tae-suk, let me finish." He took a breath. "You asked me once what I wanted from you. I couldn't answer then, but I can answer now. I want mornings with you, arguments with you, silences with you. I want to watch you build your empire and know that I'm in your corner. I want to grow old with you, grow soft with you, grow into whoever we're meant to become. Together." He knelt. "Zanara Nwosu, will you marry me?" She didn't hesitate. "Yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, a perfect fit, as if his mother had somehow known. Then he rose and kissed her, deeply, thoroughly, with all the passion he usually kept controlled. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, the sun had fully set. Stars were emerging overhead. "We should tell Jae-min," Zanara said. "He'll want to know." "He already knows. He helped me plan this." "Of course he did. He also suggested we marry in Lagos, public ceremony. So everyone who witnessed your humiliation can witness your triumph." Zanara considered this. "That's petty," she said. "Very. I love it." Tae-suk laughed. That genuine, surprised sound that still thrilled her every time. "Then Lagos it is. The biggest wedding Nigeria has ever seen. With the most powerful groom Korea has ever produced, and the most remarkable bride the world has ever witnessed." She leaned into him, feeling his arms wrap around her, feeling the steady beat of his heart against her cheek. "I love you, Kwon Tae-suk. I love you, Zanara Nwosu. Soon to be Kwon Zanara. That has a nice ring to it. Everything about you has a nice ring to it." She laughed, and he held her tighter, and the stars watched over them like witnesses to a promise that would never break. The wedding was everything they had planned and more. Lagos's most prestigious venue. 300 guests, including every person who had witnessed Zanara's humiliation years before. International press coverage. Security so tight that even the president's detail was impressed. But none of that mattered as much as the moment Zanara walked down the aisle. She wore white, a gown designed specifically for her, showcasing her elegant curves and rich brown skin. Her natural curls were styled perfectly, cascading over her shoulders. She carried herself like the queen she had always been. Tae-suk waited at the altar, flanked by Jae-min and his inner circle. He wore black, of course, a suit so perfectly tailored it seemed painted on. His neck tattoo was partially visible above his collar, a reminder of who he was beneath the elegance. But when he saw her, something shifted in his expression. Something soft, something vulnerable, something completely, utterly devoted. She reached the altar and he took her hands. "You're beautiful," he murmured. "You're not so bad yourself." The ceremony was traditional. Vows were exchanged. Rings were presented. Promises were made before witnesses human and divine. And when the officiant finally said, "You may kiss the bride," Tae-suk obliged with an intensity that made the audience gasp. The reception that followed was legendary. Somewhere in the crowd, Damola Adebayo watched the woman he had discarded dance with the most powerful man in Asia. He watched her laugh, her head thrown back, her whole body radiating joy. He watched her be loved. Truly, completely, unconditionally loved. And he finally understood what he had lost. Not a stepping stone. Not a woman beneath him. A queen. 1 year later, Zanara stood on the balcony of their Seoul home, watching the sunrise paint the gardens gold. She was no longer the woman who had received a wedding invitation designed to humiliate her. She was the CEO of a consulting firm with offices on 3 continents. She was the wife of a man who would move mountains for her. She was powerful, confident, complete. Tae-suk joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "You're awake early," he observed. "Couldn't sleep. Nightmares?" "No. Just thinking. About." She turned in his arms, facing him. "About where I was 3 years ago. About where I am now. About how impossible it all seemed when I was at my lowest. And now I know something I didn't know then." "What's that?" She smiled, rising on her toes to kiss him softly. "That the best revenge isn't destruction. It isn't humiliation. It isn't proving anyone wrong." She met his eyes. "The best revenge is living well, loving well, becoming the person you were always meant to be. Is that what you've done?" "With help." She touched his face. "With you." He held her closer, and the sunrise wrapped them in gold, and the garden bloomed around them like a promise fulfilled. She had been invited to a wedding to be shamed. She had arrived with a billionaire. But in the end, the revenge wasn't about making Damola jealous. It wasn't about proving her worth to people who had doubted her. It wasn't about power or status or triumph. It was about finding love. Real love. The kind that saw her clearly and chose her completely. And that, she realized, was worth more than any revenge the world could offer.